DJs have so many options when it comes to lighting. One option that people have been gravitating towards is tube lights. But which one is the best? In this video, I'll be showing you 3 different brands of tube lighting that I've used at my events. So let's dive in and see which of these tubes is worth your money. So here's the lineup that we have today. We have our GloTubes, we have our 360 tubes from Both Lighting, and we have our Astera AX1s. So I got all 3 tubes right in front of me, and you can tell right out the gate, one of these tubes is not like the other. The GloTubes and the Astera tubes are about the same height, but the 360 tubes are like 1.5 feet taller than both of these. Not a huge deal when it comes to the height of the tubes, but definitely something to keep in mind for your setup. So we're gonna go through all these tubes one by one, go over all their features as well as their pros and cons. First up, let's talk about GloTubes. Priced at $570 for a pack of 6. They are super lightweight, literally weighs less than a pound, less than half a pound, honestly. They're super easy to transport and they are controlled with this RF remote. Now the remotes have really good range too. You're able to control the tubes from across a huge ballroom with no issues. You can also switch the colors, adjust the brightness. You can even activate the sound active mode to sync the lights to your music. The lights can get pretty bright as well, and the battery life's about 6 or 7 hours or so on the stagnant colors, and then 4 hours when you set it to party mode. Now these tubes are not going to win any tech awards, but they'll still light up your dance floor the way that you need them to. Now one downside to keep in mind for the GloTubes, I have a couple things. One, it is almost 360 except for the back right here. It's kind of hard to see, but there is like this faint line right where the, I guess the lighting diodes are. Something to keep in mind. I always face them forward, keep this kind of towards the DJ booth. Not a problem at all, but definitely something to keep in mind. And also the weight of them too is definitely a factor. For how light they are, guests think they're party favors or something they can pick up and wave around. Make sure not to have these in a spot where guests can just grab them and throw them around or stuff like that. I usually have my DJ assistant kind of watching the tubes, making sure no one's touching them. And if someone does, he just walks by and takes it from them. And that's really it. Again, not a huge problem on the weight, but definitely something to keep in mind. So like I said before, the GloTubes are all controlled with this RF remote. Now this remote is super nice because it has such great range on them, but you can control so many things with these lights. So right now they're set to a nice candle light, but I can set them to like a red, right? We got our red, we got our green, we got our blue, and of course you have your white. Now this thing actually has a white diode inside, and you can also adjust it based on the hue. So now it's like a nice pure white. You can also change the brightness, adjust it how you want, kind of matching the colors in the room or the uplights you have or whatever. And then it also has the auto mode right here. So you click that and that sets it up to our party mode. So it's doing like this nice little rainbow wipe look. So we got like a fire looking mode. This is like a green wipe. Here's got your purples, all the different modes that you can go to the party. A lot of times I just hit auto and then just let the lights run all night and I never really touch it after that. So definitely a great light to use if you guys are on a budget or just want to get a bunch of these lights around your setup without spending a ton of cash. Next up, we have the 360 tubes from Both Lighting. These are priced at $1,160 for a set of 4 of these things. They have full DMX capability and a built-in interface right at the bottom of the unit to change any settings that you need. And to control these tubes, I have Sound Switch. I use the Control 1 controller. And what's cool about Sound Switch with these things is that you can use it to sync up the beat grid of your Serato and make these tubes kind of go to the beat of the music and change the scenes based on the mood of the song. I also heard that they have IP65 waterproofing, which is kind of cool to have, but I won't be taking these outside when it's pouring down rain, so I guess I'll never know if they actually do or not. And one of my favorite things about these things is the battery life on these things. 10 hours, that's solid. And I actually wanted to see how long they would last me in a real life situation on one charge. And I was able to get 2 gigs, 2 full gigs without them dying, which is pretty solid. A couple downsides with the both tubes. One is how tall they are. I'm like barely 5 feet and these things are just as tall as me. So having these right next to me looks a bit weird. So I usually put them on stands, make them up a little higher, and it's not a problem at all. Now, one thing that the 360 tubes have over all the other tubes we're talking about today is they are actually 360 tubes. I'm turning the tubes right now and they are full coverage on the entire tube except for a really, really faint line right here, but you can't even notice it. Like it's so faint that if you're a couple steps away. You're not gonna notice. It is purely a 360 light, which is super sick. So we have our both 360 tubes all set up, and it does have that interface, like I said before, where you can make any DMX setting adjustments or just any setting adjustment in general. So having that on there is really nice. None of the other tubes have it, and it's controlled through DMX. So I got my sound switch all plugged up right over here. This is the control one, the controller I use to handle all of my DMX lighting. Now we have it set to a candle light. You can also change the button. I click this, and now it's a white. I'll click this, and now it's like a nice little blush or a pink or something like that. Now, it doesn't just do static colors. You can actually do tons of cool things with this. So let me turn off this candle light. So it's actually reading the waveforms of my Serato, converting it over to a DMX signal, and basically the tubes are perfectly synced with the music that I'm playing on my Serato. So definitely having this makes it so much more fun to kind of mess around with, especially during a lights show. But it's also cool because it'll just run through all the scenes forever. So if I gotta do a gig by myself, just having the sound switch set up, I can just let the lights go and I don't have to worry about a thing. And finally, we have the Astera AX1s, the Rolls Royce of tube lights. And these things are expensive. They cost $4,500 for a set of 8. Now, these lights are controlled through the Astera app, which offers insane levels of customability. You can set up presets, you can create detailed light shows, and adjust basically every detail when it comes to these lights. They also have DMX support, but I've never used them because the app is just so good, I've never had to. And out of all the tubes we have today, this one has the best battery life. It has 12 hours of runtime. And I've honestly used these at events, 3 events in a row without a single charge. So definitely a solid light, that's for sure. Now we have our Astera AX1 all set up. It is not a 360 tube. It is about a 180, if that. So you definitely want to make sure these are facing it towards where you want them to light up, because if you're facing the other way, it is not going to work. But these things are controlled all through the Astera app. Right now I just have them set to a candle light, but you can really just, tap, switch it over to a different color. And they also have a ton of different modes. So this one's like a slow fire mode. Might be hard to see on the camera, but it's kind of like twinkling a little bit. They also got tons of different settings you can do. Nice little flashes over here that you can work with for the party. Now, one downside with the Astera app is once you set a mode, it just kind of does that one mode forever. So you really want to make sure someone is always on the iPad, changing the modes, changing the speeds, and making all the adjustments to the lights, or else it's just going to do this all night long, which is kind of a shame. I'm sure in the settings, you might be able to make a scene that's a lot longer and can kind of cycle through the different modes. That's not something that comes built in, but I'm sure that's something you might be able to do yourself. At the end of the day, your crowd won't know or care about how much you spend on your lights. They'll care about the energy and the experience that you create with them. So pick the one that works best for your style and your needs. Or if you just want to flex on everybody, you can just buy all 3 and call it a day. Problem solved. Now let me know what you guys think in the comments. Which one of these lights do you guys like the best? And while you're at it, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.